everybody, DeathsStalker here. As I get stopped by traffic here at the Dundas Town Hall, I thought I'd take you down a road I actually drive along a lot, and I don't really talk about it much, but this time I'm actually going to follow it right to the end. And it's got a bit of historical knowledge to it as well, and it is the first surveyed road in what is Upper Canada, which is what this part of Canada is, Ontario is, and that is Governor's Road. So it's most roads in Lower Canada, which is actually where Quebec is. I never really understood the upper lower thing. It just happens to be that's the way it was. It was before Ontario, Quebec existed as provinces, and we're talking 1790s. So this is just after the U.S. got its independence. Governor Simcoe, who was the governor of Upper Canada at that time, commissioned that a surveyed road be made from Dundas, which is what this is here, to what was going to be Paris. So they actually started off with the settlers doing it, then eventually got taken over and was being turned into technically what was called a military road. Now when you're thinking of roads back then, you're talking what were called corduroy roads, which was basically they chopped the trees down, because this whole area here would have been very heavily forested, and then they just lay the trees, diagonally across, or just straight across what would be the road we're driving on right now, and you would walk on it, ride your horse, or if you had a carriage, you'd be pulling the carriage. And you imagine, round trees, like they didn't flatten them, they just stuck them in the ground like that. So it's like, just perpetual speed bumps. And that was the first surveyed road. Now, of course, this road's been redone. One of the reasons I haven't done this video for a while is this section right here that I just got on right now has been under construction for 2 years, and they're almost done. And Hamilton seems to be really good at hiring the slower than molasses in the middle of winter construction companies. Now this whole area here is a part of Dundas that's would have been like the boom that happened in the 70s. The other section that you see me going up Highway 8 is the old part of town, which was from the 1850s. And we have a high school out here and a junior school, a Catholic elementary school, and this is all stuff that's been done in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and up to current years. Now, Dundas itself is actually pretty much run out of land for expansion. We have a lot of conservation areas and whatnot here, so they can't just keep expanding, which is a good thing because it makes you actually manage your land a heck of a lot better than other municipalities. And what we're getting now is infill, where there was an empty lot or an old house that was torn down, and they put 2 or 3 houses in its place. The nice thing is that the population of Dundas was planned out to be about 25,000, and that's pretty much what it's going to end up being. So you're sort of managing all your expenses and stuff, and because of it, it's also a very popular place to live, which unfortunately drives the value of the property up. Now the downside of the Governor's Road was being a surveyed road. In fact, it was successful, is that if you come to Western Ontario, which is where Dundas sort of is, you'll notice that the vast majority of our roads out here are surveyed roads, which in modern sense means straight as heck and boring as hell for people on motorcycles. If you're out towards Kingston, Trenton, and whatnot, Shannonville is actually where we have a motorcycle racing track. The roads around there are fantastic for riding motorcycles. They're nice and twisty, up and down hills and stuff. Because back then, when their houses were being built, they didn't think about, and also the equipment didn't exist where you could actually move a giant hill to keep your road straight. You have to remember is that the explosive back then was black powder. This is before nitroglycerin and before dynamite. So explosives weren't that easily available. Black powder is not that effective, and so generally anything being done was being done by picking a shovel and a lot of back-breaking work. So a lot of times it was just simply easier to go around the you know, the hill, the obstacle, than trying to go over it, under it, or through it. So this is sort of like the end of Dundas itself. There is a few, you know, houses out here because it's you know, this was all rural area that got, you know, added to the town when they reset the borders back in the 1970s. But you know, what happens is like the big houses up here and whatnot, and there used to be small farms here, and of course the farms are not being run anymore, but somebody buys a farm and is able to put their McMansions up there. And I'm not begrudging people for it, because the farms really are too small to be viable in this day and age, and you know, I'd rather have a McMansion as opposed to a subdivisions of cookie cutter houses out in the rural area of the community where it shouldn't be. Well, right now the camera really doesn't show it, but we are actually going up. Okay, Dundas itself was formed by a large waterfall that was actually taller and more powerful than Niagara Falls, but this was like hundreds of millions of years ago. And so there's a giant wedge that's been cut through this whole part of the escarpment, and Dundas is sort of like sitting in what used to be sort of like the spillover, the leftovers from the waterfall. And so instead of having a real sharp climb here to get out of the lower section of you know, where Dundas is up to the escarpment, we just basically are following what is, you know, leftover rocks and dirt and boulders and whatnot and pebbles that came over the waterfall. This is all Ice Age stuff. I had a guy who's like so into history and geology of the area, and talked to him at a dinner party like 20 years ago, and this is all he talked about. He was just so fascinated by it, and it's like, well, a little bit of trivia. Now out here again, there's a rail line that's over there in the trees. You really can't see it. You'll see it up a little further. It's actually going to cross this road a couple times. We're heading up now. We're getting into what is Copetown, which was a small, like a whistle stop sort of thing. I don't believe a train actually stopped here, but it was, it's sort of like where it's an intersection of two main lines. Old Governor's Road is right, a bit of it is right there, and it was kind of windy and followed pretty close to the railway line, but it's sort of, it was just a short little turn off, and when they redid the road in this area, they changed it over to here, so the old part still is there, and there's a few places where that happens, but not so much. So we get up here, just off to the right is the rail line, but this is I think it's Highway 52, and this road runs from basically the Ancaster area. There's a lot of farms up that way, and it runs in that direction, and it sort of hooks up with Highway 8, which runs to Cambridge. So this was actually one of the thoroughfares to get over towards the Cambridge, which eventually could get you up to Kitchener, Waterloo, and if you wanted to go to even London or even America.